this video, I'm going to show you how to make these really cute loom flowers. They take just a few minutes to make and they're really fun, and you can use them for all kinds of fun things. You can put them on a barrette, you could string them into a garland, and lots of other things too. So let's get started. For this project, you'll need a pair of scissors, a large yarn needle. We're going to be using this for the center of our flower. And you're going to need a small circular loom. Sometimes they call this a flower loom. Sometimes it's just called a small circular loom. It's basically looks like a little crown. It has pegs around the center, and then it has a little peg on the side here. And pretty much everyone I've seen comes with this little hook. That will help you later to get the loops off of each peg when we finish our flower, okay? And then we're going to be using yarn. Now really, yarn is pretty flexible with this as long as it can fit on the little hooks of your loom. I have here some worsted weight acrylic yarn. This is just really inexpensive yarn you can pretty much find in every craft store and craft aisle. The yarn I have here is called Red Heart Super Saver. It comes in tons of colors. It's really easy to use, and it's a great weight for this particular project. We're going to start by making our petals. You'll need a petal color, and then you'll need a center color. It doesn't necessarily have to be a different color. You can really do whatever you want. But we're going to do purple for our petals, and I'm going to kind of scoot all these other colors out of the way. We'll pick a different color for our center later. So let's scoot our yarn, and we're going to grab one of the ends of our yarn here. As you can see too, this is kind of the ends of some of my balls of yarn. So this is a great way to use up some scrap yarn as well. Okay, so grab your loom. And what we're going to do first, I'm going to zoom a little bit closer so you can see. Our loom has a peg on the side. So what we need to do is to get it started, we need to tie our yarn onto the side of our peg. So it might help to make a loop first and then kind of put it on there. So just tie it right on and make sure it's pretty snug because you want it to stay put while you're working, okay? And now what we're going to do is we're going to start wrapping our yarn around these pegs. So grab the yarn that's connected, not the little tail you just made, but the yarn that's connected to your yarn ball. We're going to go up and hook that first peg straight up, up top. And then come back straight down and wrap it around that one. Now go over to the next peg and wrap it around the next peg and hook it on there and come directly over to your next peg and then go over to the next peg here, hook it onto the one directly across. And we're just going to do this all the way around. It doesn't need to be super tight, but you do want it to be able to stay put. We're just kind of making like figure eights, okay? Now we've come back to where we started. This is the first peg where we started, and this is where we are now. So you're going to come back up. Now, as you can see, if we're making this into petals, they're a little bit thin. You could stop here if you want to, but I wouldn't mind to be a little bit fuller, okay? So I'm going to do another round of wrapping. So wrap around the peg, come straight down to the other one. Wrap around the next peg, come straight down to the other one. And keep going all the way around our whole little circle here, okay? Until you get back to the beginning where you started, okay? So now we are back with you can use your little side peg as a marker, okay? Now let me get a little bit more yarn because I want my flower to be even fuller, okay? So let's do one more wrap. Now this is getting pretty nice and full. You could stop here. Let's go one more time. So go around and around and around, all the way around the whole flower loom. Whoops, if that happens, our pegs are getting a little bit full, and that's totally fine. Okay, now we are at the end again. So see our little peg? That's our little marker. Now we're going to cut a little tail, so about the same length as our other tail. So give it a snip, okay? Okay, now we're ready to do the center. So we have some really nice petals going. And just so my flower doesn't come apart, I like to just tie it to the one that's on the peg here, just really carefully, just so it stays put, okay? Next, we're going to grab a second color. I'm going to do this bright yellow here. And we're going to get our second color. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut a piece of yarn, about 18 to 24 inches. It does not need to be very long at all. And then we're going to thread our yarn needle. Remember our yarn needle from the beginning? So you're going to thread it, leaving a little bit of a tail. And then you're going to pick up your flower, and we're going to go in between the petals. So it helps, it's hard to see what in between the petals looks like closer in. So I like to start on the outer edge. So come up from underneath and come up in between one of those petals and bring it almost all the way through. So you're going to leave a little bit of a tail on the bottom, okay? Now, you're going to take your needle and you're going to go straight across to in between the other petals. Again, I like to kind of find it up top here. It's a little bit easier to see. And go straight down. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make an X. So come up on the opposite side and back down. And pull it through. And I'm giving it a pretty strong tug here. And then this tail later, we can give it a pretty strong tug as well when we tie. We're going to tie it in the back. Okay, now we have our little X. Now let's do a plus sign. So come up in between the petals. Whoops, I dropped my needle. So come up in between the petals and go directly across to the other side and go back down. Okay, we're just kind of like sewing this in place, okay? And then we're going to go across, do the opposite side, and just like that, okay? Now look around your petals and see if there's any that you missed. So come up through here. Let's do this one. Just like that. Okay? And we're going to tack that one into place. And then I think right here we need to do a stitch, and then we'll go across here, okay? So you can go a couple more times if you want to, but it's up to you. It's up to you. So once you have your center sewn, flip your flower over, and you're going to take your two tails from the center here, and you kind of have to like go down in it because it's like a cup, okay? And we're going to tie it pretty snugly. There we go. Now, if you're not tying this onto anything, you can just snip these. No big deal, okay? Now, we need to get this off the loom, okay? So what we want to do is take our little hook. Now, if you don't have a hook, you could try and use your fingers. It's a little trickier because it's pretty snug. Or you could get a crochet hook, or even if you have a metal needle, you could use that. But a lot of these looms have grooves where your little hook will fit perfectly in there, okay? So you can use those grooves to get up under these loops here, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to take your hook, and I'm going to use my thumb to help me out here. You're going to take your hook. The first couple ones are a little stiff, and you're just going to pop a petal off, okay? Once you get a petal or two off, they get a little bit looser, okay? So you're just going to pop your petal off. Just be very careful because this tool is a little bit pointy. And you're going to just pop that petal off and go all the way around. And as you can see, it's getting a little bit looser and easier to get these off, okay? So just go all the way around with your petals until your flower is free. Now, once you get to the last few, you can just really pull it off with your hand, okay? Now, we still have our piece attached to the side peg here, okay? And I'm gonna, you can cut it or you can untie the knot, whatever you like. I'm gonna untie mine a little bit and then just kind of lift it off of this peg. And then just use these, tie these ends together on the back of your flower. And like I said, you can snip those to kind of, now if you have one coming out of the side here, you can take your needle and kind of redirect it back towards the center, okay? If you need to kind of get it out of the way, you can do that as well, okay? All right, and then very carefully, you don't want to go too tight on this because your little loops that you just created will, some of them could pull inward, okay? And then if you're not tying this on anything, you can cut these as well. So that is how you make an easy loom flower. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and you can check out more information on the blog using the link below. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and hit that subscribe button to get all the latest Sparkle and Splatter video updates. Thanks again.